let's jump into that. And we'll talk about exercise, and we'll talk about a little bit about inhibition in a bit. So exercise is incredible for so many reasons, right? But we want to focus on the mental health part of it, the brain health part of it, and the flow part of it. Okay. So just as I was going through this, I'm like, there's just so much information. Like, what are we even going to talk about? So I went back to the beginning. Like, what are the goals? What are we trying to do? Well, we're trying to find more flow. And in that, the clarity of purpose. So we have unlimited motivation and that intrinsic drive, like Mike was just talking about. Okay. Getting rid of pain, right? Whatever form that may come in. And then all the great things from flow, increasing productivity, creativity, learning faster, all that. And optimizing brain and body function. This is kind of where exercise really comes into play. Like, how do we get the brain and body functioning at their peak, right, together? Okay, so that takes us then to these 6 non-negotiables for peak performance in anything that you're doing. These are the 6 fundamental things that you have to do and you have to get right. Otherwise, all of those other long tail things that we talk about, even neuro drills, right? Any of the like biohacking stuff, supplementation, red light therapy, cold plunge, saunas, like anything else does not matter unless we get these right first. Okay, so we've already talked about sleep, nutrition, hydration. We're going to talk about all 3 of the ones on the right next week, but today we're talking about exercise. So again, back to that health hierarchy and how we think about this. When we break down just the left side of this equation here, sleep is far and above the most important. Okay, then nutrition and hydration, got to get those right, and then we can worry about exercise. Okay, it's important, but again, you can't train your way out of a bad diet, and you can't eat your way out of bad sleep, right? You got to take care of them in that order. Now, here's just some facts about what happens to your brain when you exercise. You get norepinephrine, which is our focusing chemical. You get endorphins, which dull the sensation of pain. You get BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This is really important. It's neuroprotective. It repairs neurons and helps protect the brain from injury and also to recover from injury. So this BDNF is an incredibly important hormone that shows up only when we exercise. And I think a little bit when we sleep. But exercise also releases dopamine, okay? Blood flow to the brain increases. You get more oxygen, more nutrients. You get some serotonin, which is like feel-good, like contentment hormone. You'll notice that a lot of these neurochemicals also show up in big amounts in flow. Okay, so exercise is like a gateway to flow. And it's also one of the easiest ways to find flow is by exercise. Some other things that happen in the brain, you reduce the loss of coordination and the impairment of brain cells related to Parkinson's. You reduce your chances of getting Alzheimer's and dementia. Okay, you encourage the pituitary gland to release endorphins. You improve your learning and mental performance. In fact, that's been studied that after a big bout of learning, right, if you go do a really intense workout, you will hold on to that skill or that learning a lot better, right? If you sleep for even 20 minutes after that hard workout, your body and the skill and learning will also increase, okay? It makes us happier, reduces sensitivity, stress, makes us more resilient. It's also the #1 treatment for depression. Okay, I love this graph because you can see SSRIs down here can be effective, but really, if you just go dance, all your troubles and worries will go away. That's what this graph says to me. Julie, I'm sure you are just laughing at this and just, yeah, she's like, I knew it all along.
Jazz hands, yes.
Yes. So exercise has been shown to be more effective than any of the antidepressants on the market. Okay. And this is for let me make it clear, this is not for like treatment-resistant depression or like major depressive disorder that's really, really intense, PTSD, that kind of stuff. Exercise can be helpful, but this is more talking about like low-grade mood disorders or like low-grade depression. Get out there, get moving, okay? And that's where exercise is a really powerful tool in our context here as a state management tool, okay? If you're feeling low, you're feeling stressed, go for a walk, go for a jog, do a dance and try to be unhappy, right? It just doesn't really work, right? When you're dancing, you don't have any choice. You just have to be happy. So how does it work to shift your state? Well, it plays on a system called the endocannabinoid system, which at its basic function is a way for the body and the nervous system to return to homeostasis. And you have these endocannabinoid receptors all over your body and brain. And one of the most powerful endocannabinoids is called anandamide. And it shows up mainly when we are exercising. Okay. Ananda, if you break down the word, Ananda is actually a Sanskrit word meaning bliss. That's why they call this the bliss molecule. And the thing about anandamide is it really is pretty intense in the ways that it makes us feel really good. Okay. So it's one of those molecules that's actually very similar to the cannabis molecule called THC. They're almost identical. And THC attaches to the same receptor that anandamide does, which is why cannabis can be kind of like a shortcut to flow and people feel more creative and more in tune with their body because of the way that the THC is attaching to these receptors in the endocannabinoid system. So it can help with pain relief. It dials down discomfort. It's a mood booster. And it can be one of the contributing factors to like runner's high, or when you're exercising and you start to get like that second wind, start to feel really good, right? That's anandamide and some other endorphins, but this is the most powerful one. It actually increases your brain growth. It plays a role in neurogenesis, so growing new neurons and new connections in the brain. It reduces stress and just contributes to an overall sense of well-being. They call it the bliss booster, okay? So what I want you to understand about exercise is that it is a way to shift your state. And Nick talked about this perfectly when he was talking about, going through his day and like crushing it, being super productive, but then finally hitting kind of a wall. And it's like, okay, I need to change my state. Let's go work out. Boom. Immediately got all these endorphins, all of these good neurochemicals boosted again by moving his body around, goes back into it, drops back into flow. We are just getting hit with a thunderstorm right now, and it's awesome. Anyway, how much?
Yeah, are you seeing this? It's hailing.
Yeah, it's loud.
It's crazy.
It is hail. Hail in Arizona. All right, so how much do we need? 150 minutes of moderate exercise, 75 minutes of vigorous exercise. Okay, spread it out during the week. What you're looking for here in our context, in terms of flow, is you want to work out at a moderate to vigorous intensity. So heart rate is increasing, your breathing starts to get labored, you're sweating. You want to do that until the mind goes quiet. Okay, this is key. That's when the shift starts to happen. We call this exercise-induced transient hypofrontality. I don't know if we discussed this term yet of transient hypofrontality, but it just means transient, meaning short-lived, hypo, which is less than, as opposed to hyper, which is more, and frontality, frontal lobe. So the frontal lobe we were just talking about earlier, that we really need to activate in order to get rid of distractions. That's like the struggle phase of the flow cycle. We need activation here. We need to focus. And it's like, gets frustrating, right? Same thing as we're happening in exercise. We're warming up, like we're going through things. First set's like, kind of hard. And then we finally like drop in to the zone. The mind goes quiet. that frontal lobe actually shuts down. The activity goes quiet, meaning your inhibition goes quiet, your self doubt and self-criticism goes quiet, like that voice in your head, the inner critic also goes quiet. That's part of the reason why exercise is so helpful for mental health, because it breaks the cycle of the loop that goes through your head. Okay. And this is also the same thing that happens in flow state, is this transient hypofrontality. So as far as how much we need, if you can get to that point each day, you're going to get the benefits from the mental health side of the equation. Okay, the physiology side is a little bit different. That's where the 150 minutes comes in, 75 minutes of vigorous activity. This slide did not get finished, obviously. But cardio resistance training, we're going to do both, right? We need both because they both have very profound benefits, right? We need lean muscle mass, especially as we age. We need load so that we can grow, muscle and bone. We need cardio on the other side because we need a strong heart, right? We need to get blood to the brain. We need a strong heart to do that. So we need both, but the thing we're looking for in terms of this context of flow states is what's called embodied cognition. Okay. Embodied cognition is the idea that how we think and understand the world is directly connected to the way that we move and use our bodies. This is the mind-body connection, but it's a step further in saying that your body kind of has its own intelligence, is kind of maybe too strong of a word. That's why they use cognition. But it's kind of like our body kind of knows what to do. And if you've ever been in a flow state, you know this, right? Mike, since your screen is on, how many times playing football were you not thinking at all? And you were just acting with your body. Your body went places that you didn't even think or need to think about. It just did it, right? You felt that. That's embodied cognition. When we're in tune with our body and we're so prepared through the practice and through the scheming and through the repetition, that it's almost like a reflex. Our body knows what to do, it just goes. Okay. It's easy to see that in sports or in something like dance, movement-based modalities and things. It's kind of hard to wrap your mind around it when we're talking about like working at a desk or something, but it is the same, right? Think about your ability to type, right? When you're typing an email, you can totally be embodied. Find that deep embodiment, which is one of the most powerful flow triggers, okay, is deep embodiment. You can find that doing anything. And one of the ways is just, well, it's called interoception, but like mindfulness activities, yoga, anything that is raising the internal awareness of what's going on in our body is going to help us find this embodied cognition, this innate intelligence of the body and the nervous system, separate from the thinking brain. Okay, so interoception is one of the main things that feeds deep embodiment. If we want to increase embodied cognition, kind of like I was just alluding to, here are some ways: yoga, massage, breathwork, mindfulness, calming sensory techniques, right? Anything that is calming to the nervous system. It can be light touch. It can be a weighted blanket, right? It can be heat. Those are sensory inputs that are calming. Common alerting sensory techniques, right? Something that's going to be alerting can also be ways to increase this embodied cognition. Dance is on there, Tai Chi, Alexander technique, Pilates, Feldenkrais. And then mindful awareness and body-oriented therapy, or MABT, is another way, a more clinical way to actually increase this embodied cognition. Daily movement practice is also up there. We're going to talk about that again later. Now, here's some drills for raising interoceptive awareness and accuracy. This is the internal perception of what's going on inside my body. We talked about this early on in the program, but again, it's the way that we sense what's happening inside. How's my heart rate? Am I holding tension anywhere? Do I need to go to the bathroom? Am I hungry? All of these internal and sensory inputs are important for us to be able to tap into that deep embodiment. If we don't feel what's going on in our body, we can't ever like become embodied. Kind of a weird way to say that, but I think you get it, right? We can't have embodied cognition if we have no idea what's going on inside. So really simple ways to increase your interoceptive awareness are any breathing drills. Any conscious awareness to your breathing is going to make you more aware of what's going on inside your body. Vagus nerve activation, like we've done tapping before, humming and gargling, wearing an ab belt, the Z vibe, which is like a high frequency vibration along the abdomen or up at the ear. Acupressure pen is the electrical stimulation. Any sensory drills are going to be good for this. You can use like the thumpy massage gun, skin stimulation with whatever you got, weighted blanket, compression clothing. Cold plunge, great way to create some internal sensation and improve interoception. And then muscle mapping, which if we have time, we'll go over that at some point. But that's a really good way to feel and map the muscle, just like you would map joints, so that your brain has clearer maps and really feel what a full contraction actually feels like. Okay, so this is a quick one today because I want to keep it simple and I want you to just master these big rocks of implementing a daily movement practice. This is separate from a workout, okay? And I'll show you one that is in your community right now that I want you guys to practice or at least try. And then improve interoceptive awareness and accuracy with some of these drills, okay? And then to Mike's question earlier, we have some inhibition drills on here. Inhibition drills are basically anything that's going to take away sensory input. So a hat can do that, right? It's just cutting out some of the light coming from above. Sunglasses, colored glasses, which I don't think we've talked about yet, but we can. An earplug in one ear, right? And just test which one, test both of them, see which one's better. Just cutting out some auditory input. The ab belt with some compression can also cut down some sensory input. Pinhole glasses are just like they sound, just plastic glasses with a bunch of pinholes. Any of those can be helpful for tuning down the dials of the nervous system and helping you regulate, come out of a sensory overwhelm state, or just to dial down and up the activation that's going on in your brain. So practicing some of those drills, you'll notice a lot of them are already on your list. You may have some already. So those are just some areas you can look to try some other stuff. Daily movement practice, interoceptive awareness and accuracy, and then just getting some exercise in. 150 minutes of lower intensity or 75 minutes of higher intensity. If you're not doing that already, you need to start. If you need help, I can post a couple like simple workouts in the community for you to start with. If you're totally new to it and never done it, I would say hire a personal trainer, right? They can get you 80% of the way there. That with the neural drills and everything else should really get you on your way to building a lot of capacity and a badass physiology that's going to help with your brain.